Hey there and welcome back to Mass Effect 2. My name is Pete and today we complete our very first loyalty mission of this playthrough. After a lengthy trip to the Citadel in the last episode, we are back on board of the Normandy now, and we will fly to our next destination in just a moment, but before we get going we have some messages to read and a few conversations to complete.
Commander, you've received a new message at your private terminal.
So let's see what we have, and it's not one but in fact 3 messages. Our stop on the Citadel has apparently caught a few people's attention, and among those is the journalist and reporter Emily Wong. You might remember her from Mass Effect 1, where she was busy investigating and uncovering corruption and organized crime on the Citadel, and today in this message she seems happy that we're still alive and invites us for a conversation. Unfortunately though, that is all we will hear from her in this game. Sadly, we have no option to follow up on this message, which is in my opinion a bit of a shame. Moving on, we have another message from a Citadel resident, and one of high profile at that, the Asari consort Shaira. We also met with her in Mass Effect 1 and had an interesting exchange, and just like Emily Wong, she also expresses her gratitude to hear that we are still alive. Still, we can also read that she senses us heading towards an even deeper darkness than last time, and considering who we're up against, that should not surprise. But she leaves us with good wishes, and that brings us to the third and final message. This one is from Dr. Chloe Michelle, a medic on the Citadel, one that we ran into while we were trying to recruit Garrus back in the previous game. And again, she is happy to hear that both Garrus and Shepard are still breathing, and she also makes a few more mentions of trying to contact Garrus in the past, but unfortunately she remained unsuccessful. Once again though, this is not a message that we can actually follow up on in this game, but at least contrary to Emily Wong, she will make a more prominent return in Mass Effect 3. So that's it for now, and with that I would say it's now time for some equipping. Back on the Citadel we did a bit of shopping, so let's head up to the captain's cabin and see what we bought. First of all, we have the fish over on the left here, which we can now feed, and we actually have to do this after every major mission in the game, otherwise they will die. Over on the right then we can also catch a glimpse of the space hamster, but thankfully we don't have to feed this one. Up next we then have the armor locker, and that is what we're actually here for, because we have acquired a few new pieces of equipment. Starting off, we have the helmet slot. So far, we have been using the N7 helmet for a 5% health boost, but since our trip to Omega, we also have access to the Kawashi visor. And at this point, we will make the change and get ourselves a 10% boost to headshot damage. Of course, this reduces our health a bit, but we'll get to that in just a moment. The chest piece, meanwhile, remains unchanged. After all, faster shield regeneration is always a good thing to have. In the arms slot we then also get rid of a health bonus, this time by removing the N7 gauntlets in exchange for the offhand ammo pack. This one is pretty straightforward, it gives us more ammunition, and especially after running somewhat short in our mission to recruit Dr. Urki a few episodes back, I think having a few extra bullets is a sensible idea. However, at this point we have now reduced a 5% and a 3% health boost upgrade, which is why we're now opting for the life support webbing on the legs. This one gives us a 10% health bonus, and I feel like with this setup we get the most out of the equipment we currently have. Now, also in the last episode, we recruited ourselves another squad member in Kasumi Goto. And she has already made her way onto the ship and is currently hanging out on the crew deck, so let's pay her a visit, learn a bit more about herself and about a few key items in her cabin.
People are talking out there, and I hear it all. I usually travel hidden away in cargo bays. It's nice to be able to look out a window for a change. Mess Sergeant Gardner might just be an evil genius. Emphasis on the evil. People think he's a bad cook on purpose, like he's trying to teach them a lesson. I think his ramen is okay, but it's really hard to ruin ramen. I'm not really sure what to do with myself. Not much call for thievery aboard a ship. Come back later. I'm sure I'll have more to talk about. Don't laugh, I like those books. Romance novels, crime novels, the classics. There's something about the feel of actual paper in your hands, their musty smell. It's relaxing. Keiji used to find books for me while on the job. Some of these are more valuable than the objects he was hired to steal. That's my favorite piece, painted for me by a child prodigy from Elysium. She was the cutest thing. She was kidnapped by slavers who hoped to sell her on Omega. I wasn't about to let that happen. I set up an idea as a buyer's rep to get a special tour of the slaver's vessel. Once aboard, I freed the girl and smuggled her off the ship. She painted that for me on the way home. I'll never forget how it felt to watch her work. I stole that on a dare, believe it or not. There was a big museum show coming to Ilium. Artifacts from Earth going on tour. Very high security. KG dared me to steal this. So I broke in, hacked the security, put a few guards to sleep, and replaced the piece with a worthless duplicate. They never knew the difference. My first museum job. Nowhere near the last. The Red Rose. That used to be my calling card when I first started out. In place of whatever I took, I left a single red rose. It wasn't until I met KG that I realized how silly it was. He had a way of making you realize when you were just being sentimental. That painting has a special place in my heart. An art collector hired me to steal it. When I got there, the painting was gone. On the way out, I saw it being hauled off by another thief. I chased him down, tackled him, and took the painting. That's how KG and I met. We never did turn it into our employers.
Right, so a bit of backstory here. I actually kind of like the way this is done with both her and Zaeed. It's a bit of a different approach to the layered conversations, but I also think it's able to paint a slightly broader picture of those characters. Now, the last thing to interact with here is the bar, and we'll start things off by having ourselves a drink of blue liquor. Right, so far no immediate consequences. How about we down a shot of red one as well? Right, Shepard seems a bit shaken, but I think we can go for one more. And this time we'll mix blue and red together, which will, with a nice sizzle, give us a purple drink.
Shepard, the men's restroom is on the port side of the ship.
Okay, I would say we have reached our limit. As far as I know, there is actually no way to pass out here, so let's head back outside and catch up with the rest of the crew.
The commander has put together an impressive team. I've never worked with so many aliens before.
They're a small army. We might just pull this mission off.
And our crew does indeed seem confident, and maybe we can do something to boost their mood even further, because on the Citadel we bought some provisions for this guy right here, our Mass Sergeant Gardner.
Commander, those provisions you provided were perfect. I owe you. I've already thrown together some of my calamari gumbo. Here, try a bite.
And sure, we will try something. After all, we bought the ingredients, and I think it's the polite thing to do.
Truth told, it's based on an Asari recipe. Seems a little cannibalistic to me with their tentacle heads and all, but they ain't no good grub. Anyway, thanks again. You really came through.
Alright, we receive 40 experience points for completing this small assignment, and we also only have one more conversation between us and the start of the big mission in this episode. And that conversation will take place in engineering, where we will now have our first somewhat lengthy chat with our Krogan squad member Grunt.
Shepard.
Right, the familiar Krogan greeting here, and let's start asking a few questions, beginning with Grunt's opinion on the rest of the squad.
What do you think about the crew?
Good bunch if they stay out of my way. Dead bunch if they don't. Train them good if you want to take on collectors. Some of these aliens are too smooth.
Now, Grunt already mentioned our quest to take on the collectors, but of course it would be nice to hear a few more of his thoughts regarding that mission.
What are your thoughts about our mission?
I fight. Doesn't matter who for.
Well, I have to say that is very straightforward and probably something we can work with, so let's move on to the specifics of the collectors next, because after all, Grunt's creator Okier had some contact with them, and collector tag was also used in Grunt's breeding.
Did Okier give you any imprints about the collectors?
I see blurry ships, guesswork about strength. Nothing to help pick a weak spot and tear. Okier spent all his time on old hatreds. Whatever he had, it was used up when he made me.
Well, unfortunately it seems more and more like that mission didn't really help us much in regards to learning more about the collectors, but at least we acquired a capable squad member, and who knows, maybe Okier left us at least something useful.
Anything in your tank imprints that can make use of the resources we found?
Might have something I could put together. Don't know how useful it will be.
Alright, the upgrade is on the prototypes here, and it is the Claymore Heavy Shotgun. We will eventually have the choice to pick up this weapon for Shepard as well, but exclusively for him, this right here is the only way to have at least one of our squad members use it. Now, the Claymore that Shepard will eventually be able to use is one of the best shotguns in the game. This version for Grunt, however, deals 40% less damage. That makes it not quite as useful, and it will eventually be outclassed by some of the other shotguns in the game, but for now it is still a substantial upgrade over the default, and so I consider this research project 15,000 platinum well spent. By the way, we cannot ask Grunt any personal questions at this point, and so now we have nothing else to do but to head back up to the Combat Information Center, and then we can leave for new adventures.
No messages for you, Commander.
Now, today's mission will have us leave the Vido system where the Citadel is located, and it will take us to the Ismar Frontier, where we will complete the loyalty mission for Zaeed Massani. There is a very specific reason why we're doing this loyalty mission at this point in the game, and I will talk a bit more about that as we proceed, but for now we can stock up on fuel and probes and begin scanning the system. This is not the one where the mission will take place, by the way, but since we're here, we might as well complete it now. Our first planet is the gas giant Metaponto, a poor planet that gave me roughly 3,500 units each of iridium, platinum and palladium. As always, you can of course get a bit more if you're thorough, but for me, getting the planet down to depleted was enough. Our second stop is then Polino, another gas giant, and this one also didn't give too much, not even 3,000 units each of iridium and platinum, and just slightly over 3,500 palladium. On the bright side, we still have about half of our probes, so let's continue, and our next stop is Vecchio, and this one has a bit more to offer, over 13,000 units of iridium, 6,000 units of platinum, and a further 7,000 units of palladium. Conveniently enough, we have also run out of probes, so let's head back to the fuel depot to restock, and then we can continue our journey with the fourth of 5 planets in this system, as we now travel over to Lipini. Once again, not a whole lot going on here, but good enough for 5,000 units of iridium, just 2,500 platinum, and just over 4,000 palladium. Moving on, we now have the 5th and final planet in the system, Volturno, often referred to as a super-Earth, but currently suffering from an ice age and pretty strong gravity, so it is uninhabitable and we can only extract a few minerals. In total, I used 12 probes here, for a result of 7,000 units of iridium, 7,500 units of platinum, and finally just over 5,000 units of palladium. So here we are now, this system is sufficiently scanned. Let us travel over to the neighboring Fire system now, where we will find all remaining planets in this cluster, including the one that will present us with the loyalty mission for Zaeed. By the way, if we explore them all, we will unlock the Explorer achievement, because this would mark the first entirely unexplored cluster that we would then have 100% surveyed. But let's take this one step by step and begin with Haito, where we can find just under 2,500 units of iridium, about 4,000 units of platinum, and another 2,500 of palladium. By the way, I quickly had to return to restock on probes, but now we have 1 down and only 2 more to go, at least when it comes to scanning, so our next target is Viantel. This one is a rich planet, so we can get a bit more out of it. In total, 7,000 iridium, 8,000 platinum, and also 8,000 palladium. Last planet scan of the episode coming up with this planet that I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce, but at least it was good to us in terms of minerals with a yield of over 10,000 iridium, as well as 4,000 platinum and 6,500 palladium. And here we are now, only 1 planet remains, and as we enter orbit we immediately unlock the Explorer achievement, and with that we can now land on Zorya, a planet that once again sports a heavy presence of Blue Sun's mercenaries. As you can see, having Zaeed in the party is mandatory, after all it is his loyalty mission. To complete our squad we then also go with Garrus, who compared to Zaeed brings almost an identical skill set, but for this mission that is absolutely fine. Some long-range firepower is very useful, and all in all, even on Insanity difficulty, the mission is not too hard. So that now brings us to the level up screen, where we have 1 point to spend with Shepard, but we'll save that for later. Garrus meanwhile has no points to spend, so it's time to level up Zaeed. With him we have 4 points, and of course we'll use those to max out and evolve Mercenary Veteran. As usual, we have the choice between 2 ability evolutions. Both give a boost to health and weapon damage, with Mercenary Warlord being the more offensive-minded one, while the focus of Mercenary Commando lies a bit more on survivability. However, even this 20% health boost here will not make Zaeed an incredibly hard to stop tank. Instead, let's continue to focus on dealing as much damage as possible, which Zaeed is very much built for with his other abilities as well. So for that reason, we're going with the mercenary warlord, but again, as with all ability evolutions we have looked at so far, I would call none of them truly critical decisions, and you can very much achieve success even on insanity difficulty if you take another path here. But this is what we will go with, and that brings us to weapon selection next. And here we will make one small change and switch out the M62 to Avalanche in favor of the missile launcher. This is primarily done for the final boss of this mission, but the missile launcher with its seeking projectiles has its uses outside of that fight as well. For Garrus and Zaeed, meanwhile, we can see they have the exact same weapon loadout, but again, for this mission that is perfectly fine.
I'm on it! Switch up!
Tapping into Blue Sun's communications. Stay tight and look out for ambushes.
So, first things first, we're switching both of our squad members over to their sniper rifles, and then we can get moving, always on the lookout for Blue Sun's mercenaries to take down.
Squad Bravo, a shuttle landed near your location. Check it out.
Here we go. Keep close. Shot in the back and left to rot. That's definitely Vido's style. Let's push ahead.
Now, at this point, you might be wondering why we're actually here again, and how about we let Zaeed himself explain that with a quick callback to episode 7.
Picked up a mission a little while back, just before I signed on with Cerberus. Thought you might be interested. You heard the name Vido Santiago? He's the head of the Blue Suns, runs the whole organization. Seems he recently captured an Eldfell Ashland refinery on Zorya, and is using their workers for slave labor. The company wants it dealt with.
Command to Bravo, take a position. Likely these people are not runaways.
So we are in fact engaging the head of the Blue Suns here, in a mission that looks like Zaeed picked it up just before he joined us on the Normandy.
Report to base! Armed intruders incoming at the southern checkpoint!
Alright, here we are now with our first group of enemies. However, we have nothing out of the ordinary here, just a few regular Blue Suns troopers. Conveniently enough though, the area that we're fighting in is pretty widespread, so that makes the sniper rifle an excellent choice on our side, while our enemies suffer a bit from their slightly more limited range, and also from their inability to rush up and gang up on us. This way we have 3 sharpshooters in good cover that can engage the enemies one after another, so this first firefight of the mission here is really not too difficult. The only enemy that you should be wary of in this first approach is the Blue Suns heavy with elevated position here. There is only one, but the missiles still hit pretty hard, and there is no need to take significant damage this early in the fight.
Reinforcements incoming. We got your backs.
There is also some medigel around the corner here should you need it, and it's actually a good idea to grab that quickly because a second wave of enemies is now coming in. Once again, we're not dealing with anything too difficult here, but a few unique enemies make this part of the fight slightly more difficult, as we have a standard trooper accompanied by a heavy and a pyro, and they have also brought a rapidly approaching Fenris mech with them. Again, at this level, with the weapons and powers we have, that is nothing we can't handle, but the enemies are grouped a bit more closely together, and so staying out of cover for too long can be a bit dangerous. In the end though, unless you or one of your squad members is getting blasted by both the heavy and the pyro, you should be able to advance here without taking any casualties. Before you do though, make sure to also grab the contents of the PDA over here. It would be a shame to pass up on 6,000 credits.
Vido. Sounds like he hasn't changed.
Now, in case you haven't noticed yet, Zaeed and this Vido guy sound awfully familiar with each other. So it seems like this might be something more than just a simple mission for Zaeed. So let's ask him about that and grab ourselves the first 2 paragon points of the episode.
I get the feeling you have a past with this Vido.
I knew he was a sadistic bastard back when we started the Blue Suns. The Suns only got meaner after he staged his little coup 20 years ago. So yeah, we have a past.
Right, good to know that we have one of the founding fathers of the Blue Suns in our squad. Probably something that would have been interesting to know.
Why didn't anyone tell me you founded the Blue Suns?
Because it's not common knowledge. Vido wiped me out of the records. He ran the books, I led the men. Worked real well for a while. Then Vido decided to start hiring Batarians. Cheaper labor, he said. Goddamn terrorists, I said.
Now, Zaeed also mentioned that the whole thing happened 20 years ago, so it might be fair to ask why we're still dealing with this.
20 years is a long time to hold a grudge.
A grudge? Vido turned my men against me. He paid 6 of them to restrain me while he put a gun to my head and pulled the trigger. For 20 years, I've seen that bastard every time I closed my eyes. Every time I sighted down on a target. Every time I heard a gunshot. Don't you call that a goddamn grudge?
One thing that we shouldn't overlook here is that Zaeed apparently got shot in the head and still survived. Certainly quite the achievement.
You survived a gunshot to the head?
Yeah. And you survived your ship getting disintegrated. A stubborn enough person can survive just about anything. Rage is a hell of an anesthetic.
Well, looks like we have uncovered a bit more vital information for this mission, but at this point I suppose there is no turning back, so we might as well cross the bridge and finish what we started.
We'd better get moving.
Direct to southern access. All squads mass at the gatehouse. Now!
They know we're here. Bring it on, you son of a bitch!
Right, so we received 2 paragon points for our efforts and there are quite a few more still left to come, as it looks like it has now become our task to carefully balance the objectives of the mission with Zaeed's personal vendetta. In good completionist fashion, we also don't want to miss the container of palladium over on the side here, before we then enter the gatehouse.
Zaeed Massani, you finally tracked me down.
Vido.
Don't be stupid, Zaeed. I have a whole company of bloodthirsty bastards behind me, ready to kill or be killed on my command. Actually, take your shot. Give my men a reason to put you down like the mad dog you are. Again. What was that? Gone nearsighted, old friend.
Burn, you son of a bitch.
You just signed your death warrant, Massani.
What the hell are you doing?
Opening the gate.
Right, so it seems like Zaeed has absolutely no problems with blowing up the entire facility if it brings him closer to Vido. However, that is not how we operate, and for 2 paragon points we can also let him know.
We don't sacrifice lives for the sake of the mission. There's always a better way.
Like what? Wandering out in the jungle for hours looking for another way in. You want to waste time out here? Go ahead. I'm gonna kill Vido.
You're endangering lives. And the mission for your own selfish revenge.
You really want to do this, Shepard?
I had to knock you the hell out. But thanks to you, we have a burning refinery to save.
Let these people burn. Vido dies, whatever the cost.
Good, so the paragon interruption here shortened the conversation a bit, but it gives us the highest possible amount of 7 paragon points for it. Before we enter combat, we can also quickly grab ourselves another palladium container, and then we can take out 2 lone troopers who don't pose too much of a threat. As you can see, Zaeed's actions have firmly set the facility ablaze, not exactly what I would call a delicate approach, and after grabbing another palladium container over here, it also presents us with a significant decision.
We're trapped! We can't get to the gas valves to shut them off! The whole place is gonna blow!
No time. Vido's probably halfway to the shuttle docks by now.
Right, so we can get ourselves 2 paragon points to start off here, simply by repeating what Zaeed said, which already sounds like it's absolutely not how we do business.
You're willing to watch these people die?
Damn right I am. We stop to help these people and Vido gets away. And if he gets away, I'm blaming you.
And here we now have the big choice. 15 Paragon or 15 Renegade points are waiting at either end, and for the sake of Paragon points we will have to go against Zaeed here. Yes, it was his mission, but we are in charge now, and that means we do things the Paragon way. By the way, apart from sticking to the Paragon path, there is also another reason for this choice, but I will tell you a bit more when we get there.
We're here to free these people. We're going in.
I knew this was a mistake. If we're gonna do this, we'd better get to it.
So here we are now with the facility being blown to pieces around us, and we are looking to get inside, where we will hopefully be able to shut off the gas valves and free the workers. The locking mechanism on the door is quickly bypassed and we can head upstairs, and after being greeted by an explosion behind another door, we can then find our way towards the first of 3 fuel control stations. One down, 2 more to go. The next one is right around the corner over on the left here, right next to a burnt body, so we already have our first casualties. In the corner we can then find some salvage worth an additional 6,000 credits, before we then proceed up the stairs, passing by a few of the trapped workers.
The doors won't open until the fire's out! We're going to die! They'll save us, I know it.
The 3rd fuel control station is also right here and quickly shut off, so now we only need to extinguish the flames. By the way, had we chosen the Renegade option, then we would have gone a different path. Instead of fighting the fire, we would have fought more blue suns, but of course at the loss of a lot of innocent lives. Just ahead of the next door, we then have Palladium container number 4, and behind the door we will not only have access to the extinguishing system, but also to a very important research upgrade.
This should come in handy.
One that played a huge part in my decision to take this mission this early in the game. Now, I will explain that choice a bit more in just a moment. For now, we can turn on the water and prevent the facility from being destroyed entirely. Over in the next room, we can then see the freed workers heading for the exit. The fire is no longer trapping them inside, and so it looks like at least some of them have survived. Down the boxes we go, and straight for the 5th and final Palladium container of this mission, while in the next room we can find a shiny new toy.
This is valuable.
This right here, the Firestorm, is a flamethrower, classified as a heavy weapon, and since we haven't gotten ourselves a kill with this thing yet, let's do something about that in the very next room. Right, so we have now killed enemies with 4 different types of heavy weapons, and that leaves us only 1 shy of completing the Master at Arms achievement. As these 2 go up in flames, we also get kills number 18 and 19 towards the Merciless achievement, which is therefore now also only 1 kill shy of completion. A bit more salvage in the room then gives us an additional 6,000 credits, and a weapons locker and some heavy weapons ammo next to the door here. That is a good sign of what's to come. With our 2 flamethrower kills out of the way, we will now also switch back to the missile launcher. From what we have available, that is in my opinion the best heavy weapon to have for the next fight. We will also make sure to grab the heavy weapon ammo after switching weapons, otherwise it would have been wasted on a flamethrower that we just got rid of.
Go to cover.
Person to bring me Massani's head. Get something special in their paycheck.
Right, here we are now in another large but also somewhat convoluted area, ready for another big firefight. The size of this area, by the way, also another reason why I like to have a lot of snipers for this one. Now, we also have Vido in our ear, constantly taunting us, while we are being swarmed by more and more enemies. And so far the sniper rifle has served us well, but as you can see we are also running low on ammunition. Now things get interesting though, as a fire-spraying tank starts moving, and as you can imagine we don't want this thing to come anywhere near us. Luckily, a few shots with the pistol are enough to drop it, the enemies below take a bit of damage and we conserve ammunition. Now as we proceed, let's also quickly talk about that heavy weapon upgrade from earlier, and why it so heavily influenced my decision in favor of this mission. Now in itself the upgrade is somewhat useful, after all it gives us more heavy weapon ammo, but that alone does not make it a game changer. What's more important is that grabbing it unlocks another research project later on back on the Normandy. And that research project is an entirely new heavy weapon, one that packs so much punch it's able to one-shot kill some of the strongest enemies in the game. And there are a few specific missions in this game where it's quite convenient to have such a weapon, and that is why I wanted to make sure we unlock it as early as possible. At the same time, I also have to say I really like this particular mission. It is short, it is action-packed, and it features an important moral decision. In short, it has everything a good Mass Effect mission should have. Now at this point in the fight, ammunition is slowly becoming a bit of a problem. For taking out enemies without putting ourselves in too much danger, our positions are of course very good, but unlike our two squad members over on the left flank, we have to worry about ammo as well. So at some point during this fight you will very likely have to leave cover and grab ammo from some of the fallen enemies. Ideally though, this happens when the area is a bit less crowded. Now the last Blue Sun's enemy has fallen and the area is quiet for the moment, but that should be a sign to prepare for something big. Shortly after, you can also see what I mean. A heavy mech has been activated at the far end of the room and is now slowly but steadily approaching. To get us started here, as long as he has shields up, we'll fire away with the assault rifle. After all, the disruptor ammo does a bit of bonus damage to shields. However, it doesn't take long until we're switching over to something a bit more capable, and this enemy is the reason we brought the missile launcher with us, as that thing will be able to make quick work of the mech's heavy armor. Once the armor is down, the mech falls quickly, and with that we have successfully cleared the room without putting anyone in grave danger. Our exit is now at the far end, close to where the mech came in, but before we leave there are a few things we need to grab. First of all, we can find a medkit on the floor, and then we have two doors, one to the left and one to the right, where just a few moments ago some of the mercenaries came from. Behind both doors we can find 6,000 credits each, so 12,000 in total, and that is more than we had when we started the mission, so I think it's needless to say that we want to grab that all. Once we have everything, we can then leave the area, even though there are a few more doors that are currently left unopened. You can see them here at the end of the room, once again one on the left and one on the right, but I can promise you there is absolutely nothing behind them. Honestly, I have no idea why they're even here in the first place, but we don't have to bother with them and can instead make our exit.
You just cost me 20 years of my life. Ah, son of a bitch. Oh.
Right, so one more time, things go slightly wrong for Zaeed in this mission, but there is no need to be an asshole about it, so let's grab ourselves 2 more paragon points and make sure that Zaeed is alright.
Zaeed, you alright?
The hell do you care? I'm fine. Now come on, get me out of this shithole.
Now at this point though, there are obviously some differences between Zaeed and Shepard, and so I think it's fully justified to question whether or not we actually need Zaeed's help in the first place. And posing that question also gives us a further 2 paragon points.
I'm not sure I need a man like you on my ship.
If you didn't need me, Cerberus wouldn't have paid my fee. I'll do what I was paid to do. Nothing more, nothing less. Now stop screwing around. Let's go.
Now this right here is probably one of the most important dialogue choices in this mission. We could go with one of the two options on the right, grab ourselves a few more paragon points, rescue Zaeed and leave the place, but if we want to gain Zaeed's loyalty, which in the end is what we came here for in the first place, then we absolutely need to choose the persuasion option over on the left, which conveniently enough also gives us 7 paragon points.
You put your own goals ahead of the mission. That's not the way this works.
I've survived this long watching my own back. No time to worry about anyone else.
You're part of a team now, Zaeed. There's no way we can do this unless we're all working together.
You have a point. I'm not done with Vido, but I can put that behind me long enough to get your mission done. Let's get the hell out of here.
And here we are, Zaeed's loyalty mission has successfully been completed. Despite its rather short length, we earn enough experience points to once again level up, and the mission summary also reads quite nicely, even though unfortunately Vido eventually got away. Still, Zaeed is loyal to us now, and that is all that counts, and as a result of that we have unlocked the Inferno Grenade bonus power for him, a bonus power that Shepard can be trained to use as well, by the way. We have also unlocked a new outfit for Zaeed, and we grabbed ourselves a new heavy weapon, and thanks to this particular upgrade right here we will have another one of those in just a few moments. We also obtained the max amount of 60,000 credits, which is by the way about 20,000 more than we would have gotten with the Renegade approach in this mission, and we also found and collected all 5 Palladium containers. Once again, the Renegade path only would have presented us with 4.
No messages for you, Commander.
And so here we are, back on board of the Normandy with another mission completed, and I'd say it's time to do some research. In the prototype section we can then see the new advanced training research. That is how we can train Shepard to use bonus powers that have been unlocked for his squad members, but for the moment we don't need to bother with that. Instead, let us research that 3rd heavy weapon ammo upgrade, and let's see what that unlocks. One more look in the prototype section then reveals the M920 Cane. Now, despite only holding a single round of ammunition, this weapon is incredibly powerful. For example, with that one round it would have been able to take out the mech from earlier without any problems. And like I said earlier, there are a few missions in this game where this weapon is seriously useful, so let's make it available. I think we'll see it in action very soon. Since we have more than enough resources for it, we'll also quickly grab ourselves the emergency shielding upgrade, which increases the power of our unity and overall should increase the survivability of our squad members a bit further.
No messages for you, Commander.
Now there is only one thing left to do in this episode, I'd say, and that is to have a quick chat with the man whose loyalty we just gained. That was, by the way, the second of 2 achievements in this episode, so let's see what Zaeed has to say.
Back for another lesson. Hell of a mission down there on Zorya. Can't believe Vido got away. 20 years of tracking gone, just like that. But I gotta let that go. We have more important things to do. Ever been to a Batarian prison? They don't trust you enough to sell you into slavery. That's where they send you. In there you got 2 choices. Bash your head open on the wall, or kill everyone between you and the exit. I should let you go. Talk more later, Shepard.
Alright, it looks like Zaeed has his eyes firmly set on our mission now. Admittedly, it is a bit of a shame that Vido got away, but I would say in the Collectors we have bigger fish to fry, and it's good to have Zaeed loyal and on board for that. And with that, we can now make our way back to the CIC and wrap today's episode up. Next time we will likely complete another short mission and see the M920 Cane in action for the first time, and who knows what adventures await after that. So for today, let's make the cut right here. As always, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, then I would of course be happy if you could leave a thumbs up, and if you want to support the channel further, then you can either subscribe if you haven't already, or support the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.